off with watermelon on my face, but okay. Welcome. I feel like it was awkward for me because I didn't have the headphones on, so I didn't fully hear when the music stopped. But I was enjoying my watermelon from the farmers market. So shout out to Chickadee Farm real quick. But yeah, we're back. Welcome to Duality. I'm your host Ash, and we're gonna get into some topics that have been super prevalent in not only my life, but I know a lot of people I've been communicating with's life, and that being detachment, access, and timeline shifting. So with that being said, what do those things mean? Like I could tell you what they mean to me. I was going to write down the actual definition, put them on post-its, but like that just didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like I left work, got ready real quick, barely just really made tea, which shout out to Society 7 tea blend makers. They are absolutely amazing. I made like a homemade lemonade, and I had made a homemade strawberry syrup with also the strawberries from the farmers market. So shout out to the farmers market, shout out to the farmers, and shout out to Society because I brewed their black palm reader tea, and it has like pomegranate and cranberry or peony and black tea. So it's really really amazing, really delicious, and we blended that up because we don't need to go get a refresher. We could just we can make it at home. We got refreshers at home. So cheers to that. And yeah, it's like really good. I really wish that y'all would be able to have it with me one day. I aspire to make tea blends and have them sent to y'all so that we can be sipping on the same tea together at the same time while I'm, doing the podcast. But yeah, so to get into the topics, let's start with, on the last podcast, I had said if it's anything that life is teaching me right now, it's detachment, right? And as a person who can become attached to things, detachment can be difficult. Simultaneously, it's like super liberating, super freeing. And what does it mean to be detached in comparison to like disconnection, right? So to me, my interpretation of detachment is like you are still connected, but you aren't attached to a particular like outcome. You're not attached to a particular way of certain things being, but you're still connected to it, right? So for me, just as a whole human being, I could sit here and say like, I have no expectations or things of that, whether it comes to, work, myself, like romance, friendships, whatever the case is, like, but like, I do. And then I have to undo that essentially. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I have to also like make that space and take accountability for when I am kind of noticing that I'm becoming attached to something or someone or some place or whatever the case is, some ideology. And I feel like, creator, the universe, God, however you translate, the higher power or the energy within the universe, like got jokes, like got like real funny ones, actually like real good sense of humor. And like I say that because it's like recently I've had a few different like ideologies that I came to notice that I was holding on to very tightly. And in that process, I was like not fully aware that I was holding on so tight to like an expectation or a concept or a particular outcome. And once I became aware, a lot of times when we just have conversations with people that are like neutral, people that aren't trying to push us in one direction or another, but rather just kind of like letting you get whatever you're thinking or speaking out, and you kind of have a backboard to that, it's like you can kind of hear yourself better, because when we talk to ourselves in our head, it's like we can we can hear it obviously, but it's not the same as when we articulate ourselves out loud and when we hear it back and when we run it back, or when we speak to somebody and they have an opinion or they have a take, or they're like, why do you say it like that? Or why do you think like that? And I think that it's so important to have conversations because of this, because when we get to explore our why, we get to explore like what is making me think and or feel that way, you know, when it comes to a specific thing, outcome, whatever the case may be. And, you know, with that being said, it gives us the opportunity to kind of expand. Like you can realize where your ceiling is and be like, okay, cool. I'm gonna break it. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna break the ceiling because like it's containing me in a particular place. Like it's keeping me in a particular place that I don't necessarily wish to stay. It's like rather than have it be like, you know, you're on a journey, you're on a path, you're walking outside, you know, you're coming across different landscapes and things are changing. But when things aren't changing and you're in a room and you look up and you're still looking at that same ceiling, but you're like feeling like there's more, I feel like that's like that uncomfortable position that we get into where we either double down and we go backwards, and or like we go back to how we got there, essentially. Like, you know, we commit to that, like how we got to that space, how we got to that place, and the ideologies that uphold that, or we push forward into the unknown and kind of make new sense of new topics, new things, whatever the case may be. And I feel like I'm at that point with a lot of different things in my life right now. You know, just the moment where I keep thinking I know something, like I get reminded how much I don't know, which is a blessing. You know, some people say like ignorance is bliss. And I suppose in one way it could be. But at the same token, I just feel like once you know, you can't unknow, you know, like red pill, blue pill kind of thing. And like once you know, you can't unknow. So it's like for me, I don't even look at ignorance being bliss because I'm like, don't people feel unfulfilled even with the things that they don't know? You know, if I feel like that with things that I don't know, and maybe I know a little bit more than say a person that is kind of on an ignorance is bliss kind of pocket, you know, wouldn't they feel that too? Like, I don't really know. I would have to talk to somebody who identifies with ignorance is bliss as their like default in their life. You know, I'm a person who can really like dig deep into things. Like I'm a person who can, I want to get to the root of stuff. You know, I want to know why it works, what makes people the way that they are, what makes ourselves think the way that we think, like, you know, what these different things could mean and what the origin is. And sometimes I could be like all consuming and very exhausting, but I have to come up for surface. But at the same token, like with great knowledge comes great responsibility. And although it's like truly like it could be a heavy burden to bear, I can't imagine my life not be this way. I can't imagine myself not pursuing depth and not pursuing, you know, what I aspire to find as truth, and like, you know, and then also come to a ceiling when that truth is then changed through another person's perspective, and or, you know, even just listening to myself play something out. I feel like you are meant to almost be not a hypocrite, but kind of in a way, because like you could stand on something. Like for me personally, like I have a very strong personality in a lot of ways, and like when I really believe in something, like I stand on it. Like I'll double down on it, I'll stand on it, and like, but I can be wrong. Like I have the ability to be wrong. Like I'm not going to just sit there and like think that I'm right about everything that I think. I think that I know what I know, but I also know that I don't know things. So if you're going to come to me and you come correct and you're able to express to me like, oh, hey, that makes sense. But also, did you think about it like this? Or maybe you can consider it like this. And then I really ponder that because you've taken the time to do the research. You've taken the time to put in work to come to an understanding of something. And I can trust that because I can feel that authenticity coming from what you're saying. I can be wrong, you know, and I'll accept that. I'll take it on the chin and I'll like explore what that realm of what you're saying is, that involves having to detach, right? That involves having the process of detachment to a particular way that you've seen something. I think that a lot of people are afraid to detach because it's like if you form your entire identity over a particular concept, thought, whatever the case may be, you aren't going to want to detach from something because it's like then you're left with not being sure who you are, right? You're left with really having to contemplate who you are if someone comes for your beliefs. And I think that that's why like the topic of religion and politics and sexuality and gender and all of these different topics that can be controversial, that they say aren't like tableside manner to have these conversations. Like, I think that if you're at a table with people who can practice like discernment and understand like we can agree to disagree, those conversations can happen and they should happen, because then you're essentially giving each other space to explore possibilities. Like that's something that we do in school. It's called neurodynamic dialogue. And when we are in school, like we have something that we do with that, and it's like a really cool container for something to create dialogue and have that safety. And that's for intention and reasons. And I'll leave that there. I won't bore you with all my like school and homeopathy stuff, but it's like, for me, it's not boring. Like for me, it's like super exciting because we literally have a safe space to do that with people of like mind who are looking to explore and looking to get to the root and looking to understand and looking to be proven wrong. And that could be exciting for me personally. So that's a good way that I feel like detachment has been coming up, especially for me with ideologies, concepts, and attachments to like people and places and like situations that have been playing out, that have played out in the past and that have been playing out. And then also just like understanding like when you like when's the point you need to let go. In the other podcast we were talking about how to not force, how to lead, right? And like right now I'm at this, I think out of any point of my life, I'm feeling the most detached but connected than I ever have, because there's a difference when you're disconnected. It's like you can also be disconnected to yourself. You can also be disconnected to other people. Therefore, you're not feeling. It's like a numbness, right? Rather than detachment is more so the sensation, like the attachment to the expectations, right? Of what you want to happen and like holding on to that concept. So like that's a differentiation for me. Y'all know what I mean. Anyway. Yeah, so I've been like really exploring that. I feel like a lot of different pursuits and experiences I've been having recently have been absolutely like muscle resistance. I've been like noticing where my isms come in and like noticing where what I'm okay with, what I'm not okay with, why I'm not okay with it. Is it valid? Is it not valid? Where is that coming from? Do I want to continue to do that? Do I want to find a new way to be? How can I rework this energy? What is suiting me? Where am I giving my energy where it's not being reciprocated? Where am I taking where it might not be reciprocated? Like, what is going on? Period. Just take an account for all of that, which comes into the topic of access, which I feel like we live in a world where, I think I have a clip talking about this last week, where it's like we are so accessible to so many people and so many things and information 24/7, where it didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be that way where we would be able to like actually unplug and disconnect and like disconnecting from, electronics, let's say, and other human beings, and just like be with ourselves. And we don't really get that anymore. We don't really get that experience anymore because we're constantly being stimulated, even if it's not from our phones, from our TVs and like, all of these different things, our tablets and our switches and our Oculus and all this stuff that's like taking us out of being in here and like just being outward, and Access is important to reevaluate, you know, like I feel like some people don't deserve access to you, you know, all the time. For me, I kind of struggle with when it comes to access. Like my first instinct when like someone calls me unprompted is like I get like a trauma response a little bit, and I have to like regulate because of just experiences of like, you know, things happening, people dying, whatever the case is. So like if I just get a call randomly and I wasn't expecting it, like I can be quick to pick it up even if I really don't have capacity and or space to do so, to just check in and be like, are you okay? You're alive, you're good, everything's okay, all right. And then like go back to myself. So sometimes like I have to just like completely shut my phone off and or put it on do not disturb, and or if needed, if absolutely needed, blocking. And like with the understanding of how I'm oriented, you know, I've been finding ways to balance it by just, you know, breathing in those moments. Like, not every time someone's going to call you unexpected is it something bad. And even if it is, like, you can only do what you can do, and you can't always take on everything. Like, we can only show up as much as we can for other people. We can only show up as much as we can for ourselves. And that sets the precedent of like how we can show up for other people. And I think it really should be evaluated like that, because if we don't have the capacity to show up for ourselves in a certain regard, then we probably shouldn't be showing up for other people in a certain regard. Maybe that's like a misfiring of energy. Some people are motivated externally. I could be that way at times. You know, I can absolutely be, you know, feeling like, oh, like not so good, doom scrolling, doing whatever. Then someone's like, oh, I need you, da 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 da, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me go help, you know. And I've been really looking at that recently and being like, well, where is that to me? You know, where is that? What does that look like for? Like, why don't I have that same thing? You know, which I do at times, but I notice that it's a little less. So I've been getting curious about it rather than trying to extract the information like I'm my own science project, which at times I do know that I can do not only to myself but to other people, and have been working on that, because I don't think that's the best approach, you know, because that's like trying to fix, that's trying to uh in one way or another, it's trying to meddle, whether we like the sensation of that understanding or not. You know, where there's support that could be like, I'm here and I'm alongside of you, and then there's like trying to step in and control, which, although the intention could be a beautiful thing, it just might not be the best outcome. You know, it doesn't like justify it. You know, it doesn't justify just because you had the right intention or a good intention. It doesn't justify if you kind of put yourself in a position that's like way further than you should be, you know. And you can commend somebody for doing that or wanting to go that hard for someone, something, some purpose, but at the same token, it's like, when do we know how to like recall ourselves back? Because if someone's not capable and or able to show up for themselves in a certain regard, and they're open to it, is one thing. But if they're not open to it and you're still going that hard, like, then it's like, what am I doing all that for? Like, what am I doing all of that for? And could my energy be placed somewhere else that would be more beneficial for myself and in my own life? You know, taking that for account. And those could be hard pills to swallow at times. And that kind of leads to the other portion of the title, which is like shifting timelines. Like, and I don't mean it necessarily in a super like new agey, like we're reaching 5D and we're going, and it's like, it's not what I mean. It's like something I noticed in experiences that I've had recently, where it's like, and I don't know, like if you guys can relate or something, like I would love to hear from you, or like, you know, if you want to DM me and or comment on whatever platform you're listening to this at. If you're ever like with somebody and like you feel the timeline shifting, like you and somebody can have like a crazy amount of chemistry or compatibility, and it's like because of the choices that you're making and because of the choices that they're making, you can feel it slipping. Like you can feel like the potential reality where you can coexist together changing and not being attainable, not being able to continue. And that could look like a relationship. That could also look like a job. That could also look like a friendship, like where you're sitting there and you're like trying to talk about, I don't know, healing your gut, you know, cleansing your body, getting rid of candida, and like and your friend is like, I have no desire to ever stop eating McDonald's every day, you know. And it's like that you can still be friends, you know. It's not like you can't be friends, but like you might feel like the resonance of each other, like the dissonance of each other, and then feel the resonance slipping, right? So it's like we attract what we are to a certain degree, right? Or what we need, right? There's all different theories on that. But it doesn't mean you have to look the same. Doesn't mean that you have to have all of the same ideologies. It doesn't mean that you have to, you know, consider the same life path and career and do all of the same things. No, but like ultimately, like morally and goal wise, especially when it comes to like partnership, like you have to have a certain like common ground in that way. In my own experience of witnessing relationships and being in them, that I've noticed the best and the longest term relationships, it's like we had similar goals, if not like same goals, you know, even if that looked different, how we were going to get there. So it's interesting because you can have that with someone, but through active choices, whether decisions that they're making, decisions that you're making, you can feel it slip and you can feel everything kind of change. And I feel like I experienced that in two different ways recently, where it was like kind of like I felt it leaving. And I not only did I feel it leaving, but I noticed something about myself. It's like, if you could imagine with me for a second, like a portal opening, right? Or like a door opening. Let's be more grounded. Like, say like a door opening, it's like it closes like this, right? And like the door's starting to close. And I feel like I wedged myself in between that door and I was like, come on, you can make it out. You can do it. Like, you can just jump out this door. Like, and I'm getting crushed by this door. And like, nobody asked me to do that. But like, I was like, I want you to be a part of this because this is like in the direction that, you know, we were talking about, we were going, or whatever the case is. And then just like feeling the pressure, the weight, and then knowing that I was going to destroy myself trying to do that while the person couldn't like essentially do it for whatever reason, you know, and backing out. And then I'm realizing like, how many times have I done that in my life? Like, how many times have I waited until all of the pressure, all of the like crushing of myself was happening to then let go? Why can't I see the door closing and just accept? The door is closing. Take a step back. Accept the reality for what it is. The door is closing. And I think that that's what leaves loops open, you know, when we don't accept. Like, that's something that's been coming up a lot. There's this video that I watched. And also there was something that my friend Alexis had said to me, like, where it was just like a particular topic where it was like, I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was like having a really hard time understanding something. And it was like really making me upset. And her being more affected than I even. And her saying like, girl, like, what's stopping you from accepting reality? Like, that hit me so hard in every aspect of my life because like, I feel like I do a really decent job of accepting reality for the most part, but I never tied together that was what I was doing. I wasn't accepting reality. In my mind, I was thinking I wasn't giving up on someone. Like, I wasn't giving up on my friends. I wasn't giving up on my potential like partner. I wasn't giving up on a job. I wasn't giving up on an opportunity. I was giving the benefit of the doubt. Like, that's where I put it in my mind. But that's different still. Like, that's still, yes, two truths can exist and I can hold two truths in my hands. But I didn't realize the other truth was me not accepting reality for what it was. And then there was this other content creator that had put up, like, in order for you to fully process grief, you need to accept reality. Whether that's grief of somebody dying, somebody no longer being in your life, whatever the case may be. You need to accept the fact that they are no longer in your life. They are no longer in your reality, whether that's forever, whether that's for a moment. When you can accept that, then you can properly start that grieving process, you know? And I feel like that's something that I had absolutely struggled with for people that are alive and past. And I do think that that kept a certain like loop or semblance of like rumination of like what could be, what could have been, what is, what isn't, like all of those thoughts very present and prevalent in my life because of that lack of acceptance. But I'm very much so a person, like once I become aware, I can't unknow. So now I'm consistently like, am I accepting reality for what it is or what it's presenting me, or am I projecting potential on it, or like what's good with me, you know? Like I feel like I'm doing that assessment quite often now. And because of that, detachment has become a lot more realistic as a tool, and therefore I'm not consistently dysregulating myself out of living in my head in the future or in the past, because once I detach from potential outcomes or what could have been or what would be, I can actually experience the present for what it is. Sounds so simple. Is it that simple? Maybe. Could be. Depends on how thick-headed you are. I'm pretty thick-headed, so it's not that simple all the time, you know? It's really not. But I feel like I've been making immense strides more than I have. And it's like none of this is new. And I'm sure this is not new information for any of you guys listening. It's just a deeper layer of it. I feel like, you know, like healing and going through life is a spiral. Like you're consistently revisiting things, and it doesn't mean that you're going backwards. It means that like you're going deeper into something that maybe you didn't have the capacity to explore when you were exploring it the first time, you know? So it's actually a really beautiful thing. So I encourage you, when you are maybe realizing like, I've been here before, like, this is the same cycle that I'm always in, whether it's, you know, with like a relationship, a concept, a friendship, like not speaking up for yourself, not, you know, making space for yourself in whatever regard, however that shows up for you. It's like, I encourage you, I invite you to take a moment in that discomfort, because once you are aware of it, that is half the battle. Like the awareness of it is like, okay, cool, you're aware of it, so now you can do something about it. Because if you're not aware of it, you can't do anything about it. It's controlling you. It's literally your subconscious, all of the things, your own organism, everything that makes you you, all of your experiences, your lens in life is going to run on this default network, like, and you're going to do your own human shit. You're just gonna do your own human stuff. Like you're a person, you know, and you had experiences. So you're going to respond from that place. You can't expect yourself to not. It's not a realistic expectation. But what you could do is, when you're aware of when it's happening, rather than beating yourself up, because I think that this is where a lot of times we start to get addicted to like that shame baiting, where it's like, oh my God, I'm doing that again. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing that. Like someone who bites their nails, they notice that they're biting their nails and they're like, oh my God, I'm doing it again. Now I'm embarrassed. Like now my nails are like this. And like, and you get into that shame spiral. And ultimately there's no solution that happens, because in 10 more minutes, you're going to start biting your nails again. You start doing the same type of isms. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we break that cycle? How do we bring our shame into a space where we can feel safe to be like explorative towards it, and like, okay, we don't have to sit there and be like, okay, well, I bite my nails because when I was younger, that was the way that I self-soothed because I was so uncomfortable. Right? We don't have to go that deep. You could, but you don't have to. You could literally just be like, in that moment, I'm noticing I'm doing something. Let me do something with my hands so that I can stop, ingesting bacteria from outside because I'm outside, I'm touching things, and now I'm biting my nails and now it's in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's still pretty deep and that's still pretty a lot, but you could just simply just try to not, but it's me doing the thing. It's me being observant of my isms while I'm talking about it. It's never ending. But what I'm going to choose to do with it right now is accept that that's a part of who I am. And instead of trying to make sense of it, move forward with it. Move forward with, there are pros and cons to all of these different traits that we have. There are some people there's someone that said, the people that love me and the people that hate me are for the same exact reason. And I didn't even think about it like that, but that's really true, because it's like people love me for my ability to bring depth to things, to be able to nurture things, to be able to help people to feel seen, because I consistently strive to see myself, so innately I emanate that naturally. And some people hate me for that, and some people love me for that. Some people don't want to be seen. Some people do want to be seen. Some people want to be seen in a particular way. There's not always the case when you are a person who you see people in full, so it's not like you're going to sit there, and you can choose to be like, oh, well, I see that good thing and, that not so good thing, I'm going to let it, which actually gets done quite often. That's what people say when they're avoiding red flags, or when they're avoiding or evading, like, oh, I seen all the signs and I still chose. And once again, we're choosing to center someone's potential. We're growing an attachment to an ideology. And we're seeing where that can go and how that can benefit us. How could that benefit that person? Our perception of that person. Wow, we can do this and that, and this can be so helpful for you. But it's like, also, that's a whole other person's decision that they have to decide if that's what they want to do. And if they want to do that, that's cool. That timeline opens up. Now you both want to do something. That timeline opens up. Now, time goes on, a person doesn't want to do that anymore for whatever reason. Maybe they have stuff going on in other areas of their life. Maybe they realize like they're just not that into it. Maybe they realize like, ooh, being with this kind of person is going to make me have to confront certain things I'm not ready to confront. Or maybe being with this person is making me feel like I'm becoming and growing evasive tendencies because this person is unwilling to kind of do that. Maybe both of those things are happening simultaneously, but it's balancing itself out. There's so many different forms, and I've gone through so many different experiences where I've felt, let's call it the timeline shift, and that I'm calling it that, but you can just also say, sorry, I'm like leaning back, but the microphone's not, so let me pull it over here. But I feel like you can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it a timeline shift because to me, it's a timeline potential with yourself, a person, a place, a thing, a job, a situation, and you're feeling that, you're experiencing that, and then you're experiencing it, feel like it's not gonna, you're feeling it end. So when something ends, something else begins immediately. It's like literally science. Like, it's just once something ends, something else begins. Energy does not die. It transforms. So now what is this other thing that it is? And so for today's podcast purposes, we're calling it a timeline. So how capable, how able are you to accept that when that's being presented to you? It could look and feel different for everybody in each moment. Sometimes you might be more acceptant than others. Sometimes it might take you a few days. Sometimes it might take you 10 years. But, everyone has a different process with different things. And I find that when you do reach certain levels of acceptance, like, doesn't matter how long it took you to get there, you gift yourself that. Like, some people don't accept things for their entire life. They live their entire life experience not accepting reality for what it's presenting. And they are just coping with that rather than accepting that, which becomes a whole other slew of things. And to a certain degree, we're all coping with life and reality. You know, sometimes it's more societally accepted with the ways that we cope about it, than others, but we're all coping with something. Like, it's 2026, the world's what it is. And that's a lot to digest. That's a lot to sit with, the reality in which that we are sitting with, the timeline that we are in collectively is a lot, the different experiences that we endured. Like, there's people that are still actively coping with the societal timeline as well as our individual pursuits and what that looks like. So I notice, at least for myself, that when I do choose to cope, when I do choose to find different things to kind of just like be surface, be in my non-mind, like try to like just go do something for fun. Like, if I do it and I set that intention that that's what I'm doing it for, and I make that space while also like getting as much as I know that I could get done, I'm able to surrender into that. But if I'm not, then I'm like thinking about it. So I might not do it because I rather just get the other task done. Or, or I might like shame myself out of doing something or encourage myself into doing something, because I'm not a perfect person. I'm a whole human being. And I do want to talk a little bit about pedestals, but I actually want to make that a completely other podcast where like we're specifically just talking about pedestals. I feel like I would like to have someone on the podcast so it's not just like my continuous thought or just like, dialogue. I rather like have someone here that we're kind of going back and forth talking about what it is to perceive people or put people on a pedestal, whether it's our parents, whether it's someone in the community, an elder, a teacher, whatever the case is. But I will speak to it right now a little bit. And what I want to speak to is like, I've said this before plenty of times in person, whether it was at Moon Meets or, different things I used to facilitate, but I said it on the podcast, but I'll say it now, just as like a little refresher, a reminder. I'm a whole person. Human being. I have a podcast, cool. I might have other things that I do that might encourage the thought process of putting me on a pedestal. I strongly encourage whomever, whether it's me or whether it's another person, whoever it is, like when, my elder used to say this a lot. He used to be like, why are you putting me on a pedestal? Like, I'm going to do things that are going to disappoint you. Like, I'm going to do things that are going to disappoint you. And because I'm a person, I'm going to make mistakes. And the less that you put me on a pedestal and where I'm like standing right next to you rather than up on this stage, like the more graceful I can fall. And when I fall, you can kind of like help me get back up rather than be like, how could you fall? And just watch me fall and like process that from a distance. And like, he didn't say it in those exact words, but that was the gist of it. He said it in his own way. And like, I remember, because I did put him on a pedestal, and there was certain events and situations that happened that I was like, oh my God, like, how are you doing these things? Like, what is life? I feel like that's like also when you're in your early 20s, I feel like life is doing that consistently. My sister used to say that to me all the time. She's like, all those bubbles get popped when you're in your early 20s. Like, you realize like what person, like how these people are drinking all the time, or this one does drugs, or that one's cheating on that one, or these people are doing that. Like, all these things that you just didn't think that people were doing, you realize that they are. And you're just like, what? Like, this is all happening around me? Like, these people that I thought were one way are other way. And it's like, once again, that's why the podcast is called Duality. We're here to talk about it. We're here to talk about those uncomfortable sides of ourselves, like that shadow aspect, whatever you want to call it, like the yin to the yang, the dark to the light, like the parts that we hide, the things that we make uncomfortable. All of like Carl Jung's work, like it's it doesn't mean that you're a horrible person. It could be. It could mean that you're a horrible person. Depends on what it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, everyone's not. Like, I mean, there's some things that people do that you are a horrible person, like 100%. But, like, well, maybe not 100%. I'm not going to sit here and challenge myself and have a debate with myself on this podcast. But you understand what I'm trying to say. Maybe you don't. Either way. But what I am trying to relate is that we all have different polarities, and certain are more imbalanced than others, but there is always dark in the light and light in the dark. And to majority, it's usually somewhere in the middle. You know, there are people that are more one way than the other, but we need to find, well, we don't need to do anything. It's ideal to find that balance. I know from my own life's pursuit, the more I accept the things that I'm afraid to do, the more I can call it out when it's happening, because I'm not in denial of it. You know, so if I'm afraid of being manipulated or taken advantage for, like, you know, whatever the case is, when I, a human being, am unintentionally doing a manipulative behavior and I catch myself and I accept it in the moment rather than shaming myself, I can identify it within myself. Therefore, I can identify it within others. Therefore, cancels out the fear, because I can trust that when it happens, or if it will happen, I will be able to identify it and move accordingly, rather than living life in fear that it could happen and not experiencing life because I'm afraid to get hurt. You know, I'm afraid to hurt others and I'm afraid to get hurt. Therefore, I'm not going to put myself out there, love again, speak on a podcast, post a story, post something, do something, talk about something uncomfortable, say hi to a stranger, let a stranger say hi to me. Like, I'm going to be afraid of experience life and then not do any of it and wonder what if. I'm good off that. Like, I rather, for me, my life, my motto, maybe it's not my motto, but it's like my internal dialogue. It's like, I rather not wonder why. I'm always gonna wonder why, actually. It's wrong. I'm rather not wonder what if, which can also be imbalanced, because that triggers me to kind of overshare out of fear of being misunderstood, and or feeling like I couldn't do everything that I can do, which has been in that active practice, once again, to access detachment and accepting when timelines do shift, because they do. And that's the beauty and the crazy thing about life. You know, I when I think about even partnership, right? Like, when I think about long-term partnership, my concept of that is like, you and a person, you don't just like find your person and like you're just good. It's like you have to actively work on yourself, and that is what carries that timeline forward. If you're consistently working on yourself and that other person isn't, that timeline might shift, you know, and there might come a time where you guys just aren't the best for each other anymore. Or that might happen, and then that person's like, I'm uncomfortable, I don't really want to shift, but then they look at you and they're encouraged by that person that loves them, right by their side, and that's enough to help propel them to fill the gap. I feel like that's like kind of what the trajectory of relationships are, is kind of like leading and following and growing and encouraging and being uncomfortable and breaking through. And it's like, it's an upward motion. In fact, it's like one of the strongest teachers that you can have. Like, as much as it's important to sit by yourself, and that's like your practice is being by yourself. You can talk yourself into a lot of things, you talk yourself out of a lot of things. Once you spend enough time by yourself, you get really comfortable being by yourself. You know, I personally have no problem going to, like, go to a restaurant, go to the movies, go to the mall, go to wherever, like, by myself. Like, I could absolutely do that. I can do it off the phone. I could do it on the phone. I can do it with somebody. I could do it without somebody. But I wasn't always that way. And I feel like when I really, like, flexed that muscle and started taking that time to really, really be with myself and like take myself out on dates and like really establish my independence as a person, especially being like the youngest of my sisters and my family. Like there's just always people around, but then at the same time there wasn't, because like growing up I was also by myself a lot, so I did know what it was to be alone. I didn't like it all the time, which made me then explore that and then learn to like it. So which brings me back to what I was saying before. There's a difference between like co-regulating and codependency, right? Co-regulating is essentially, you know, we need people. Like we're humans. We can sit here and be like, I don't need nobody. I don't need nothing. Okay, but you do though. You know what I mean? That's why you post. That's why you talk to somebody. That's why you look for somebody. That's why when you're walking, you're listening to music and you think of somebody because you're like, whether consciously or subconsciously, you're yearning for a connection. So either you're going to accept that about yourself or you're not, or you're going to like sit there and be like, fuck the world, I can do all this on my own. And there's seasons for that. You don't got to judge yourself for it. You know, in fact, that could be a super empowering season. Maybe that is the season that you're in. For myself, I've had that season many times. And I feel like where I'm at is like, I can become aware when I'm co-regulate, when I'm having a desire to co-regulate and when I'm having a desire to be codependent. And being able to discern that comes with the uncomfortability of the different times and traits that being codependent has shown up in a certain way. And I'm very fortunate that I have like close friends that we've navigated our friendship in the way that like we've shifted from being codependent to co-regulating and also extremely neurodivergent human beings. It really benefits us to body double, right? Whether it's like on the phone, okay, I'm folding my clothes, it's a task I don't want to do, but like you being on the phone is just holding me accountable. Or, you know, just having these different things are like, oh, come over to my house so I can do this. Or like, I'll go to yours. Or like, we'll talk on the phone while I'm in the supermarket so I'm not overwhelmed. Like there are things where that can be co-regulation rather than codependency. Now it's like, oh, if I cannot do this without you at all, like then I might be leaning a little bit too hard into that. And that can also be beneficial if it's like a temporary thing, but as a long-term thing, that can become codependency and be built in that way. And that's not something that I strive to do at this moment in my life. But also no shame for the times that people need to do that, or the times that I have needed to do that, because all of this stuff is not like, as much as it could be linear at times, it's also not, you know, it's also very much so like I was saying, like a spiral, like you revisit these things. They look different. They feel different, even though they feel the same. They feel familiar. What will you choose? What you choose will determine where you go. You know, if you choose the same that you've chosen in the past, like you might end up having some similar outcomes that you've had in the past play out in the present. But if you catch yourself in the moment, you're like, okay, like, I can kind of do that differently. Like, and they say, you know, in quantum physics and just like quantum mechanics of understanding the almost ununderstandable, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say? Like they say to do the opposite of what you feel to do. If you're like, oh, I'm tired, I want to stay laying down, like I'm eat, like, you know, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm getting up and going. Like that might be exactly what you need. I can't, you know, prescribe or determine that for you, but you know, that's what they say. Who are they? It's a bunch of different people. I've read a lot of different articles on that. It works for me sometimes. Other times it doesn't though, because maybe I'm just meant to be in it for a second. We don't always have to be actively fixing ourselves. It's okay to also do nothing in moments. I don't think you need to do that for a long stretch of moments. And that's where we can get messed up, is like when we get stuck in that evasion, when we get stuck in that stagnancy, when we get stuck in that loop and distraction, that's where it can get tricky. But also when we're addicted to consistently growing and moving forward, we can almost romanticize and rationalize things that aren't the most productive for ourselves, where it's like we can't even be proud of ourselves because our bar is constantly being pushed up. Like, oh, okay, like I wanted to achieve this, I achieved it, but I didn't even celebrate it. So I'm on to the next thing. You don't even give yourself flowers when you're in the process of like these pivotal life-changing moments and decisions. And that is where I think we should give more grace and more pauses. That is where I think we should have less access to ourself and to our energy, like allocating that to other people and or other things or other thoughts, and really just gift it to ourselves and being like, I deserve my presence. Like I deserve my presence, whether I want to go out with people or whether I want to go out to myself, whether I want to go to a spa and like chill in a pool or a sauna or like, go lay at a park and just like kind of just take it in. That is, I think, the most important way to kind of bring a balance into that type of person who's consistently trying to move forward, because sometimes we just move too fast. Sometimes we're moving quick, especially like us out here in the city. Like we just move way fast. Like we move real quick. And it's nothing like leaving New York City and going anywhere else, even if it's just like Jersey or like, somewhere else. You just realize that people are moving slower, and that's not a bad thing. When you're late and you're trying to get a coffee, it might be, but then it's also like that could be avoided sometimes by planning better. But instead of beating yourself up, oh, I'm always late, I'm always doing that, we can pivot and work with, okay, well, I'm late, so like how can I better support myself knowing that I really enjoy my sleep? Maybe I'll try to get to sleep earlier because then it'll help me to wake up earlier. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll just like kind of trick yourself with like putting your phone on the other side of the room so that when the alarm goes off, you have to get up. And then once you're up, So, I mean, there's so many countless ways to talk about all of these topics. But essentially, I think that like in a nutshell, everything that I was speaking to today, I feel like I've been talking about a lot to a lot of people, or listening to from a lot of people. And I think that just as important as it is to understand detachment, there's a time and space where understanding attachment and to why we attach to things, like it, like kind of piggybacking from the last episode, it's like when you're attached to something, you're afraid it won't happen. Like if you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to let this go because I want to enjoy every single sip, right? You're like holding on to it tightly. Like if you have a bird and you want to like let it free, but you're afraid that it won't come back to you, like you're keeping it caged and you're keeping that bird like not allowing it to have its own experience. And sometimes we do that to ourselves. Sometimes we do that to partners. Sometimes we do it to friends. Sometimes we do it to concepts, ideologies, whatever it is. And once you realize that you're like gripping hard to something, I think it's important to, rather than deconstructing every reason why you're doing that, if you choose to, you can, but just simply when you're holding on to something tight, just loosening your grip can help you to immensely like have the opportunity to actually be in the moment. And when you're in the moment, you meet yourself in that moment. You can meet whoever or whatever it is in that moment and accept it for what it is and allow it to write its own story by you existing the way you are, them existing the way they are, or it existing the way it is, and seeing what is to come without trying to predetermine it. And it's hard. It can be very hard because we're preset to try to understand something because we don't want to hurt ourselves or others. And I think that the more we're able to like kind of take a page out of like, the Buddhist book, or, any type of religious book, really just like anything, or like spiritual, is just like being in the moment is the solution to pretty much everything. So like we should probably do it, you know, because like a lot of people are saying it. It's like pretty proven. You know, when you do it, I'm sure it feels right. So it's something we should probably do a little more, but it's difficult because everything and everyone are consistently pulling us out of the moment, including ourselves, you know, whether it's the distractions from everything around us, the colors, the thoughts, the everything. It's like to sit there, and people think sometimes meditation's like about shutting your mind off. And I feel like, is it about shutting your mind off, or is it about coming back to yourself? Like, is it about every time you stray from yourself and you go far and you're thinking about a slice of pizza and that song that you can't get out of your head, and your ex-girlfriend or your ex-partner or your ex-boyfriend, and like, you know, and all these different things, and how you could have done better or how they did you wrong, and like you're so far and you're like sitting there in that moment, you're like so far from the present moment. I feel like meditation is that moment where you're like, and you like just reel yourself back in. And you like hit yourself and you're like, and you take that breath. That's meditation to me. Like that's taking a moment. And sometimes I also call it like having a business meeting with myself, because like I go pretty far in different aspects of myself. And then the core of myself is like, all right, come back. What did we learn? Disengage. We don't need to learn anything. We just need to be. Okay, engage because I'm thinking about something else now. All right, disengage again, you know? So, yeah. Ultimately, monitoring what has access to you, even when it comes to literally like your own. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I'm live on this. All right, well, that's just gonna not work. But even when you are like, I've completely forgot what I was saying. Anyway, I'm not even gonna try to pretend like I do. I really don't even know what I was saying. So I'm gonna just be in the present moment with whatever is coming now. So it's an active practice to not abandon yourself, even in your own mind. Some people abandon themselves in relationships, in jobs, in moments where they feel pressure, freeze response, phone response. PTSD is a real thing, you know. All of these different things are real things to us in the moment. Maybe they're not root causes, but maybe they are real things in the present moment that people are navigating. Fragments of their being, of their spirit being elsewhere, needing to call it back, or being in all of these different places, but the here and now. And ultimately, I got the thought back. So where access comes into that, like we also, if we remove, of course, we need to monitor the access that people have to us. True, valid, real. But we also need to monitor like the access that we're giving to everything else outside of us. So that's like a two-way street. Like, because you could block everybody in the world, but if you're thinking about them nonstop, that really don't mean much. Like, you're stopping the physical interaction, but you're consistently still living in a timeline that you're not on anymore. So now you're like wondering why your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul feels like it's in different places, because you're literally in different places. Like your mind and your spirit like could be in another place, another time with another person, but you are here in the physical doing your job or doing this or doing that. No wonder you feel scattered. No wonder you feel separated, because it's like you're everywhere. So how do we bring ourselves back together without feeling that shame? And it's just like, once again, acknowledging that like you can have love and you can share that love, and you can give access to, you can give that love freely. When you have the detachment, I think is what really sets the boundary for yourself. Because if you are attached to where you give that love, then you go where you give that love. But if you're detached while you're giving that love to those moments, those thoughts, those people, when you're actually sitting in your room by yourself, you are able to move through it because you're accepting that you're not there. But when you're attached to it, you're not accepting that you're not there. So you're not innately accepting reality. Therefore, how can you navigate reality? Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. But I'm gonna pull some cards. Um, yeah, I feel like I just learned some things too. So thank you guys for listening to me for this past like 45 minutes, hour, however long it was. Kind of get those thoughts out because, it's been a little bit since I did a solo podcast and I was just feeling like it was time. So thank you for being with me while figuring this stuff out in real time as well. Because that's what it is. That's what real life is. That's what this podcast is. I might pick the topic, but I don't sit here and predetermine the things that I'm going to speak on. It just kind of comes out naturally. So you're getting the raw and authentic in real time realizations as well when that stuff comes up. So yeah, so I want to just take a moment to pull some cards for whoever's open to it. Anybody who is listening to this podcast with the mind and the heart open to just kind of seeing like maybe some advice or some nudges in particular direction or something just come up in a good way. May we be protected not only here and now, but every day we walk life in a good way like that. So the question I'm going to ask is, how do we honor, how can we honor where we're at? What is it that can support us at this time? Okay. Balance, magic, fear, and flow. So, how I read that, because it came out like this, allowing ourselves to accept the magic of like what is constantly unveiling, but also like what we create. Like the magician in like the traditional tarot is like the human that is putting together all of their, like they're essentially the avatar, right? Like they're using all of their elements, what they learned from Earth Realm, Air Nation, Fire Nation, Water Nation, right? And they're taking that together and they're using it to create their destiny. In other words, using everything that you know for your benefit, right? And doing that with balance. Like, so understanding that everything that you do can affect others and vice versa. So, how can you put that output out where it's beneficial for you and others to lean into the fear? Because that's how you allow things to flow. Like, it's not being afraid. Like, I think that there's like this concept that like we have to like not be afraid. Like we're gonna be afraid of things. Like if you're not afraid, that's high key concerning, you know? If you let that fear consume you, that's also not the best option either. But to be afraid isn't a horrible emotion. And it's like a lot of times telling us something, sometimes it's, yes, it might not be what we should do. And then other times it's like, I'm afraid of this because I don't know the outcome. Therefore, it's triggering my control issues. It's triggering my desire to understand and have outcomes kind of predetermined for me, So with that being said, like, there is so much space for us to kind of like lean into fear, do it afraid, be okay with not knowing, you know? This one's really cute. This one means a lot. There's some people that don't know exactly where this is at, but this one means a lot to me. But I believe in you. This is like putting your heart into whatever your ceremony of life is. So knowing that you not only, sorry, I don't know if that was a crunchy sound for y'all. Knowing that not only do not only is it important for you to believe in yourself, but just know that like other people believe in you too. Other people see you like just as like, you can get nervous like, oh, like, mother, oh, people are looking at me and giving me like ugly energy. Like there's also people that are looking at you and are giving you like beautiful and encouraging energy. Like always remember that too. There are people that love you. There are people that want to see you do well, that are speaking God into you behind closed doors, that are talking good about you behind closed doors. Remember that too, just as much as you may remember when somebody's not doing that or when they're doing the opposite. It's important to remember that those prayers and that love is powerful and superior to the other stuff. And get it out. So this card, I'm going to tell y'all what this card is. This is about purging, right? Doesn't mean you got to throw up or hit the bathroom, or it might. I don't know. Not you. But it might mean that you have to cry. You have to get out. Whatever you need to get out, get it out. Because there's like, we're in between the eclipses right now. I'm not going to get super astrological, but shit is real. And a lot of us are feeling it. And it is physical. Okay? And some of us are feeling like maybe I need to do a cleanse. Maybe I need to get rid of things in my house. Maybe I need to do a friend cleanse, a relationship cleanse, or maybe I need to go to the monastery. I don't know. Some people have been saying that a lot recently. Maybe they're going. Maybe they schedule it. I have no idea, But you got to do what you got to do, and you got to take care of yourself. And whatever that looks like, as much as you need to, or as much as you tell yourself you need to do things, and like, oh, I need to do this, I need that, like, also allow yourself to get rid of things, like from your physical vessel, from your mind, from your body, from your space, like allowing yourself to be okay without. Period. Just without. You thought I was going to say something? I wasn't. Without the next thing. Just without. Be okay with the silence. Be okay with the pause. Be okay with the, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to move towards what I want, and I'm going to learn to be okay with not having a predetermined concept or attachment to what that's going to look like. I'm just going to do my best to show up for myself, and whatever, whoever, whatever, wherever, however it's supposed to come through, it will, because I'm going to do my due diligence in doing that. So trusting your magic, finding balance in that, leaning into your fear and going with the flow. Knowing that other people believe in you and making sure that you get things out the way that when you feel it's right, whether that is like crying, speaking, singing, dancing, however you see that. So that's what I got for y'all. Thank you for tuning in with me this month, and I will be speaking with y'all again next month at the last Tuesday, most likely, but I will post it probably a little earlier than I did this time, or maybe not. We'll just have to see. But enjoy this time and take the time that you need to do whatever it is that you need to do for yourself. And to conclude that, actually, I'm sorry. Fake bye. I got one more thing for y'all. So this reading is closed and all the energy attached to it is closed. In a good way. Thank you, Spirit. And thank you to everything that contributed in a good way. Now I'm really going to leave you off on one more thing. I'm not going to bend that. That's crazy. Moonless nights. Even on moonless nights, the stars don't cease to shine. Even when the clouds conceal the sun, in the weary skies, every creature believes in its existence. Even when the thirsty bits of the earth long for the slightest mist of water, they always accept the rain. No matter how long it takes, the branches of abandoned trees never reject to give rest to restless birds. Even the death springs of new life in our hearts as we awaken our sleepless souls to the beauty of life that we have and are complaining about. So tell me this. How can you be great if you expect to take more than you give? How can you expect to be different if you settle for being the same as everyone else? And how can you lose hope after failing once? How can you tell your heart not to accept love after it's been hurt, or your mind to cease to believe or trust after it's been deceived? How can you be afraid to not meet your fate at the right time when fate is what chases you, not what you chase? The life you have ahead of you is a journey, and the happiness is not a destination. Faith is in the heart, but it plants its seeds in. Faith is in the heart, but it plants its seeds in your actions. If you work by your principles, you'll never make a decision that you'll later regret. No matter what fate it is that you're chasing, that you think is yours, none but what is meant for you will happen. Believe it. Let the uniqueness of your own heart overflow with hopeful patience that the happiness it deserves already exists, and that because of your uniqueness, it will come to you in a unique way. Moonless Nights 159. As the book always does, the book thing beautifully consolidates everything that we talked about here. So now I'm really leaving. All right. See y'all later. Thank you. Take that with you. And I hope that you enjoyed this podcast.